Hey everyone, today I'm going to host something of a little bit of an interesting topic regarding should you be spending your hard-earned cash in purchasing Monster Hunter Rise for the upcoming consoles releases for PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, or Xbox One. Certainly has been a topic of discussion as of late in the Monster Hunter community, and in this video I'm going to try to provide you the answers if you should be spending your money on either of those versions of the game. I will make it clear I'm not necessarily going to focus too much on the Windows release for the PC specifically, since you can already purchase the game essentially on Steam. That is of course available for PC and specifically on Steam Deck as well. Therefore, if you want to probably buy it on PC, the best advantage you're probably going to get is just purchasing it already on Steam, and it's most likely already discounted as well. So you do have that advantage there. So I want to try to split up this discussion in two ways. First, if you already own Monster Hunter Rise and of course Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak on either your Nintendo Switch or on PC via Steam, then chances are, you're not necessarily all that interested in purchasing it again on a different console, especially spending some of the money knowing that there's no cross-play and cross-saves. However, that doesn't necessarily apply to everyone, so we're going to be talking about that at the back end of the video. But for first-time players, people who have never played Monster Hunter Rise, they simply maybe played World, they have heard of Rise, but they didn't necessarily own a Nintendo Switch or didn't own a gaming PC. The fact that it's now coming to current-gen consoles, Xbox Series X, Series S, PlayStation 5, and last-gen consoles, PS4 and Xbox One, is certainly an interesting dynamic. And it starts out with the fact that if you simply just want to play it outright and you already own an Xbox, your best bet is going to be just simply getting Game Pass, because it will be available there on Game Pass on day one. Now, that doesn't change the fact that if you don't have Game Pass, you can still purchase it for $40 on either Xbox One or Xbox Series consoles. That will be a choice. But of course, like I've always told kind of people, like pretty much right out of the gate, if you own an Xbox, a current gen Xbox Series S, Series X, chances are you should just have Game Pass already. You can get it cheap enough. You don't necessarily have to buy it outright from the prices that Xbox or Microsoft wants to sell it to you at, especially Game Pass Ultimate, and you can probably get it on the relative cheap if you know where to look online. So you should just probably have Game Pass already, but if you don't, I think the $40 spending price is going to be a little bit of a steep ask, since all you're really buying is the base version of the game, with the understanding that kind of like most Game Pass games on Xbox, you'll eventually have to buy all the DLC on your own, mainly Sunbreak. So Sunbreak will eventually be launching in the spring of next year, and we know that at the very least on the PC side of things, it did cost full price, same thing as the Nintendo Switch. So chances are Capcom is going to be charging you $40 for the expansion. So if you have Game Pass and they basically ask you to buy Sunbreak on the Xbox, I guess that would be somewhat acceptable if you're interested in that format, but with the understanding that, Capcom does discount their games relatively well heading into the future, so you probably would be better off holding off, with the understanding that, again, if you have already played it on either PC via Steam or on the Nintendo Switch, you're gonna have to start all over again. So that is the biggest drawback that we have right now. We don't necessarily know also any sort of confirmation that Xbox One and Xbox Series players will be playing with each other, like we do know that will happen with PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And that is the biggest benefit that PlayStation players have as of right now, as of the time of this recording in December of 2022. We do have the confirmation from Capcom that PS4 and PS5 players will be playing with each other. We don't necessarily know if Xbox One and Xbox Series players will be able to have that advantage. We presume they will, but as of right now, it's still a toss-up in the air because, again, Capcom has not been very forthcoming regarding all this information. Now, the drawback to the PlayStation side of things, whether you buy it on PS5 or PS4, is that there will be no PlayStation Plus, PlayStation Premium, PlayStation Essential, PlayStation anything version of it. You will have to buy it outright. You will have to spend the $40 or the $50 if you want the deluxe edition on the PlayStation side of things. So every single player, and this is going to be one of the key decisions that I think ultimately would drive me to suggest players to pick up the Xbox version side of things, or at the very least consider it more than the PlayStation side of things, is because every single player who picks it up on PlayStation, whether it's PS4, whether it's PS5, you're gonna have to pay. There is no Game Pass version on PlayStation coming anytime soon. That could change in the future for PlayStation Plus Premium. they could end up doing the same thing that they did with like Monster Hunter World. I believe it was like 2020 or something like that. They gave like 1 free month where they let you play Monster Hunter World, and if you claim it on PlayStation Plus, Monster Hunter World back then, you get to keep it. That's the only way I was able to get it originally, because I didn't necessarily buy it at launch. I ended up buying Iceborne at launch, but not World. So that is like the one way that they ended up giving it for PlayStation players. But right now, as of launch, if you buy Rise, you're going to have to spend the money on the PlayStation side of things, whereas on Xbox, you will be able to get it through Game Pass. That is the one benefit. With, of course, the understanding that once Sunbreak launches, once again, just like how Xbox is going to, most likely be charging you the $30 to $40, Capcom will be trying to get those $30 to $40 from PlayStation players as well. So that is not necessarily going to change. By that point in time, though, the player base pool would have been set. Whatever the number of players that decided to purchase it on PlayStation will be set, and I think that is going to be the biggest drawback to PlayStation players if they decide to pick it up. There will not be that many players playing it on PlayStation because every single player had to purchase it out of their own pocket, with the understanding that the Nintendo Switch version of the game, base Monster Hunter Rise, and the Steam version of base Monster Hunter Rise can already be purchased for less than $20. Nintendo Switch eShop has it for about $19.99, I believe, has had it multiple times at that price. On Steam, you have been able to see it for about $20 to $25 since it launched back in January. And now only PlayStation is going to have like the fully priced version of it at that point in time, $40. Presumably that most players who are going to play it on Xbox, of course, are going to be Game Pass players. Plenty of more people. The player base, from what I understand, people who have Game Pass, someone mentioned it in the comments before, is somewhere around 20 to 25 million people who have Game Pass. So I'm not going to say 20 to 25 million people are going to start playing Monster Hunter Rise on Xbox, but if that player base is going to be, let's say, a quarter of that, we're looking at 6 to 7 million people, playing Monster Hunter Rise, whether they play half of the game or play just a story or single player or whatever the case may be. That is just way more people than you're ever going to find on PlayStation. PlayStation is not going to, PlayStation players are not going to buy, 6 million of them are not going to buy Rise for $40 on PlayStation 5. That is just not realistic. But on Game Pass, because it's already built into the service, you're already going to have that option. So the player base on Xbox, presumably, and if you're like just going to look into play for the very first time, I think that is the biggest benefit. Yes, if you have Game Pass, you're going to get it for free, technically as part of the service, but more importantly, the player base and the player pool, the amount of players you're going to be able to have to enjoy multiplayer with, I think is going to be a better option. And that's ultimately the reason why I would suggest for players to consider the Xbox version side of things. Now, of course, we don't necessarily know anything regarding performance, the frame rates, are they going to be stable or anything like that? Of course, we expect that to be, if everything is parity, if everything is equal, the game will have 4K 60 on both PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. We don't necessarily have confirmation that it will be the case on Xbox Series S, so do keep that in mind. But we do know there will also be 120 frames, 1080p, I believe, on PS5 and Xbox Series X as well. So we don't necessarily know if PlayStation 4 or Xbox One is going to have those options. We don't presume that they will. So at the very least, current gen consoles will have like visual fidelity equal pairing, presumably, because again, the PC game runs relatively well, stable. It's not a high demanding game visually. So we expect Series X and PlayStation 5 to visually just kind of hold up with the PC side of things. And if that's the case, then I would fully expect Game Pass to be the biggest benefit as to why Xbox Series X and Series S will have the most amount of players playing Monster Hunter Rise on the Xbox Series consoles. At the same time, though, you do have to, consider that there are a lot more players in Asia and in Europe who own PlayStation 4s and PlayStation 5s. Those are the main consoles outside of the North American audience. And, that might end up being one of those things to consider. If you do live in Europe, if you do live in Asia, of course, chances are you're going to find more players on the PlayStation side of things. Of course, the biggest drawback, regardless of all of this, is the fact that you cannot play cross-play and bring over your cross-saves from Nintendo Switch or the Steam version side of things. That is a biggest drawback that all consoles are not going to have that. Just simply put, Capcom is not willing to invest the money to be able to sort out this issue. Therefore, at the very least, the negativity on both ends, Xbox and PlayStation, equals out. It's not a good thing. So this is why I said at the beginning of the video, if you already have the Nintendo Switch version of the game, chances are you don't necessarily want to start all over again. But if you happen to have Game Pass, probably that's going to be the easiest way to go because of all the reasons that I mentioned above. Again, you don't want to start over, but it's understandable if you are willing to give it a shot. Although most people who already kind of complained about the Nintendo Switch version, 30 FPS, 900p resolution, all those kind of things, already bought the Steam side of things, already bought it on Steam, already have that version of the game. So, the drawbacks are limited in that regard. So in this video, hopefully I was able to answer some of those questions. Should you buy the Xbox version for $40? Presumably, if you don't have Game Pass, if you do have Game Pass, you're going to get it out of the gate. And only understanding that on spring, you're going to spend another $30 to $40 to be able to get Sunbreak. Of course, not counting any sort of paid DLC. And on PlayStation, you will be asked to pay twice. The $40 for Rise and presumably the other $30 to $40 for Sunbreak down the road on spring. So I lean a little bit more Xbox, but I also have Game Pass. So I'm probably just, if I ever end up playing either version, I'm not considering the PS5 version whatsoever. Although again, I do expect it to be, visually and performance parity with the Series X version of side of things. And of course, the Windows version ultimately gets left out because it's already available on Steam. If you have a Steam Deck, just play the Steam Deck version on Steam. It's just a better version of the game. There's no real benefit to waiting for the Windows version when the Steam version is already a really well running version of the game. But if you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.